Hello, it's Crack Takes back this week. I fell out of the rhythm. Last week I made a video, it was no graphics, lazy. I just want to get my picks out there, give the world my thoughts. But this week I'm back at it with the force. So we're doing UFC Atlanta. If you find what I say interesting, or I give you kind of some betting tips you like, please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Even if you disagree, I like to argue. Thank you. If you just want to skip to the Buck or Cody Garbrandt, who I think is going to be the thumbnail of this video, get there. I have my hot takes there, but if you want to stick around for the most of the card, I'm going to try and get through them relatively quickly. Some fights like this, you don't really need to go too much into depth to get what's going to happen. And, let's make some money. So, Demopoulos versus Horth. Demopoulos coming in week notice, one of the smaller strawweights, coming up to flyweight against Horth, a big flyweight. Horth is also good at grappling. Demopoulos shouldn't have anything. This should be one-way traffic. Horth should look good. This is a free paycheck for Horth. I don't know why Demopoulos took it. I don't even know why they would offer this to Demopoulos. She has no chance whatsoever. They're just giving her a 3-fight losing streak for the hell of it. There's not really too much else to say about this matchup. I think 30-27. The only thing I would say is I don't think Horth will get a finish because Horth is kind of lame. And Demopoulos won't let herself get... Well, she has been finished before. Has she been finished multiple times? I can't remember off the top of my head in the last couple of fights. But Horth isn't like that sneaky BJJ. She's not got dangerous striking. This is a free square. If you're trying to bet on this card, you know what I mean? This one is like one you put on there and you're like, wow, it's good to see a little green check mark once in a while. Phil Rowe versus Angelusa. Phil Rowe, he has like all the traits in fighters you want to see. He goes to grappling competitions. He's ridiculously tall and long for this division. That's like the measurements from Michael Venom Page. Kevin Holland, 6'3", 80-inch reach, ridiculous. And he has finishes. He can strike well. You want to think that he's a good fighter. But he doesn't really put it together well. He's not the smartest. The way I like compare it, he has the IQ kind of like Chaos Williams, where Andreas Gustafsson in the last fight last weekend would just put him on the fence, and then once in a while, Chaos would spin off, and he would get to the dominant position, and you're thinking, okay, let's disengage, let's get it back to the open ground, let's see that jab come out, let's see that power, and then Chaos would just stay in the wrestling and then kind of lose because of it. I'm not saying he would have won if he had not done that, but Phil Rowe is very similar. He's not the smartest fighter. Angelusa, he's not got anywhere near the skill in the striking, probably not in the pure grappling that Phil Rowe has, but he knows what he's got, and he's smart about it. He's lost a lot of fights in the UFC, but they're against good comp, better comp than Phil Rowe is, honestly. I think the way this fight could play out is either Angelusa boringly pushes Phil Rowe on the fence, maybe takes him down, and Phil Rowe tries to play off his back, but he's not really that good, and so he doesn't really get anything, and, you see a sad fight, or maybe Phil Rowe... they have some nice striking exchanges, and Phil Rowe can maybe get a knockout or push a jab, maybe even get in some dominant grappling positions with Angelusa, and you're like, wow, Phil Rowe is good. Because I want to pick fighters, I want to pick fighters if they come out well. I don't want to say Phil Rowe's going to come out lame, therefore I'm going to pick against him. I'm going to pick Phil Rowe, because I think if they come out at their best, with their smartest game plans, Phil Rowe wins. But this is low confidence, because I think there's a 50% chance that Angelusa fights him in a kind of lame, kind of borderline offensive way where you're like, I need to turn this off and walk away. Where he just pushes him and steals small rounds off of him. But first dog. Now, Ricky Simone versus Cameron Smotherman. So Charles Jourdain was originally here against Ricky Simone, and I'm Canadian. And I was like, how am I going to try to convince myself that Ricky Simone loses to Charles Jourdain, because I didn't really think that would happen. But luckily, I don't have to see Charles Jourdain lose because he's fighting Cameron Smotherman. Ricky Simone's losses have all been to pretty good comp. All guys who are in the rankings, Vinicius Oliveira, Mario Batista, those are two of them. Those are good losses. He's a good come forward wrestler. Smotherman, not that good. He's got a win over Jake Hadley, which isn't bad. But it's just Jake Hadley. And he got smoked by... Well, not smoked, but he got destroyed by Sergey City. Because, Cameron Smotherman's pretty one-dimensional. If this was on a full camp, I could be a little sneaky and see ways for Cameron Smotherman to win because I could be envisioning Cameron Smotherman kind of going out there like Vinicius, having the takedown defense and then boxing up Ricky. But on a week notice, when you consider the Ricky's competition history, when you consider that fucking last fight, the Basra Bros, where you're like, okay, Ricky is good. Ricky wins. I think he just kind of smushes him. Probably not a finish, but you know, the betting line's a little wide for me. But Ricky Simone, he should win. He should look good in this spot. Now, Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa. When this fight got booked, you know, I was like, Cody Durden should be the favorite, but I'm going to be sneaky and I'm going to pick Jose Ochoa because Jose Ochoa hits pretty hard. He's got really good grappling and, you know, losing to Loner Kavanaugh where you can't touch him in striking, that's not embarrassing. And Durden's chinny, and I was going to be come out here sneaky and pick Ochoa as an underdog, but he's the favorite. So I feel like a lot of my thunder's already been taken out from under me. Cody Durden, he's got good boxing. He's a good come forward wrestler, but dodgy cardio, awful chin, getting old. That Joshua Van fight, like people are like, oh, he had some success early on. That's some bullshit. He might have got a takedown, but he didn't secure anything and just had nothing for Van. I don't think Ochoa can do Durden like that, but it wouldn't be shocking to me if Ochoa like clipped him on the chin or just out-grappled him. Ochoa's a really good prospect. I like Ochoa here. From a value perspective, though, I think Cody Durden's probably a better bet. Like, Cody Durden by decision is probably, like, a nice bet to make from, like, a betting value position because he should be probably the favorite. I don't know how he's not the favorite, even though I'm picking Ochoa on a straight-up thing. So, bets would probably be on Durden, but I think Ochoa sneaks us out. But I think he sneaks it out in a way where you're like, he has some sneaky good grappling. And I think he's bigger than he is listed, and I think Durden's smaller than he's listed. So, my pick is Jose Ochoa. I think he's a fantastic prospect. I don't know if he'll ever get ranked at flyweight, because flyweight's fucking stacked at the moment. Especially, like, right around the rankings. Like, the outside of them. But I do think that he's very good. And I think that Cody Durden just might be catching an unlucky fight where he thinks he's getting maybe an easier challenge, but it turns out to be a guy who might be the toughest one he's had yet. Malcolm Wellmaker versus Moutinho. Now, look at the betting line. That's the fight. I joke. I'm saying so much nerdy shit. I'm an MMA channel. I just gotta be more out there with my chest. Wellmaker smokes Moutinho. Moutinho's not even tough. He's got finished a bunch. The Sean O'Malley fight, he also got finished. Like, people talk like, oh, he survived. Nah, he got finished. He's a New England cartel guy. Malcolm Wellmaker, I don't know how he will do against the top bantamweights because he's only in his 30s. He's, you know, dodgy gym. When he's got to fight guys who are going to figure out how to get to his hips and put him on the ground. You know, that'll be an interesting day. But in a fight against Chris Moutinho, come on. And some people might say, oh, Malcolm Wellmaker, we don't know who he's going to be. He's only got this fight made this week. He's known he's going to be fighting on this card for the longest time. He's been in camp. I promise you. Wellmaker smokes Moutinho. You know, I don't think you can bet on this fight. I don't think there's a single good line. I've already talked more than this fight deserves. Now, Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee. I've seen some people come out and they're like, oh, this line's pretty wide on Court McGee. You know, Court McGee's pretty good. Court McGee's bad, man. Court McGee's not good anymore. He literally lost to Alex Morono convincingly last year. Yeah, he subbed up on Tim Means. Tim Means, look at Tim Means in that fight. All right, now that you've looked, you know, that's all I need to be saying. Michael Chiesa, you know, before his last two fights against old dudes, he was literally ranked. And yeah, he lost the three of his last fights, but against ranked competition. Court McGee, I don't think, has he ever been ranked? I don't know. Like, I can be sometimes a little fresh in these spots, but Michael Chiesa in the striking should outdo Court McGee. Grappling wise, should smoke Court McGee. I don't know how he finishes it, if he gets a finish or not, but I think Michael Chiesa is still like a level above Court McGee. I don't think Court McGee's bad. I think Court McGee's aged, like, okay, I think he's bad, but he's aged pretty well. But Michael Chiesa is still good, right? If Michael Chiesa was being a bit of a dickhead, he could be asking, hey, I was literally in the rankings 3 fights ago. I've won 2 by finish. Why am I not there? Right? You don't hear him say that because he doesn't want that. He just wants easy money fights against old guys. And I respect that. But do you see this betting line? It makes sense. It will make sense. There's a good chance McGee maybe he can maybe make it a fight because he does have wrestling. He might be able to keep it on the feet and maybe show something, but I would be shocked if Court McGee beat Michael Chiesa here. 37 and 40 are a bigger gap than people give credit. Now, Paul Craig, Rodolfo Bellato. Now, Paul Craig, the Bear Jew, which I feel like that's a funny nickname because I feel like, I don't know, I see that, I think it's like somebody's leaving a hate comment on his page, and it's like, no, that's just his nickname. Paul Craig, you know, he's an incredible grappler. Not really. He's good off bottom, and you know, he was better before. He went down to middleweight. That was a mistake. He's come back up against Bellato. Bellato sucks, but only in the striking, you know. His struggles against Jimmy Crute were because Jimmy Crute touched him up. His struggles against Poteria because Poteria touched him up. Paul Craig might be the only fighter at light heavyweight that might have actively worse striking or worse, worse striking than Ihor Poteria did. If Paul Craig had any danger from his striking, I would pick him. But I think Bellato's going to beat him up. I wouldn't be shocked if Paul Craig survived to a decision, but there's not much to say. Paul Craig's always live for some freaky weird shit, but even if Bellato ends up on top, I think he'll be able to stay safe. You know, I wish they gave Paul Craig some weird grappling fight, but he's getting Bellato. A little sad. I don't like Bellato as a fighter. I don't think he's UFC quality, but I think Paul Craig is not getting a good fight. Now, before we get by this, I'm going to just mention this really quickly. Bellato was out of his last fight because he had a herpes breakout. He did not have anything that serious. He just had the thing show up on his face. You don't need to be thinking, oh, did Bellato have blank, blank, blank? No, the herpes outbreak. You don't want to fight that guy. He got herpes. Alonzo Menefield, Umar Sy, the betting line's wide, but there is some things to discuss here. Menefield, you know, he kind of used to be like an Umar Sy-esque fighter. He's not really like Umar Sy, but he was like this guy who was ridiculously toned, who could push a pace, who had power, who could wrestle, but his physique's melted. Look at the Julius Walker fight. That was not a good look for Menefield. See, when you look at the odds and when you look at the gambling, they're like, oh, he should get a finish. C is not really a finisher. Look at his striking in the Dawoon Jung fight. It should be, if he strikes like that, I think that's more than enough to defeat Menefield. But I don't think you're going to see much better than that. And if C subs somebody, it typically says more about their grappling, like Tuco Tokos. I think that says more about your grappling than it does about C's grappling. He's not a bad grappler, but he's not like Charles Oliveira or anything crazy like that, if that makes sense. I think C probably wins rounds by scoring weird, like he was trying to win the outside foot battle. I think he does that. I wouldn't be shocked if he just tried to go for takedowns. People are looking at Alonzo Menefield getting KO'd, but that's against Azmat Mirzakhanov and Carlos Uberg. C is not nowhere. I don't think he's literally half the striker either of those two guys are. You know, I like C. I don't care for the betting line. He should win, though. There's not much else to be said. You know, happy that Menefield got a check against Julius Walker. But the fact that fight was so close, that irks me. That was dorky as fuck. Now, this fight, I can glaze Abdul Malik as a prospect forever. But I'm going to, you see, I have a timer beside me. I'm going to try and keep this under a minute. Abdul Malik would not look strange at heavyweight with his physique. Abdul Malik is like the more primal Dreykus, where Dreykus, like, he has a touch of skill everywhere, but he makes up for sometimes the lack of skill with just pure power and pure physical dominance, where Malik has less skill than Dreykus, but somehow more of that physical ability than Dreykus. And Cody Brundage, he got outstruck by Cedric Dumas. He got out-wrestled by Cedric Dumas, and he got out-cardioed by Cedric Dumas. Abdul Malik will kill him. The only concern for Abdul Malik is that if he starts KOing or TKOing Brundage, which will happen, Brundage might show him the back of his head and hope he gets the DQ. And I could see Abdul Malik, because Abdul Malik's only flaw is that he's overconfident. Like against his fight against Dusko, his foot is in like a heel hook or something, and instead of like trying to get out of it, he's like, I'm just gonna beat him up there. Not the worst plan, but if you were winning a fight, why are you risking it? And against Nick Klein, I don't think he took him seriously and got in trouble because he was kind of expecting to walk through him. I could see that happening to Cody Brundage and just like some stupid ass Cody Brundage ass win. But this is literally gonna look like a curb stomp, right? This is like the bullies thing, the old Jason Miller show where he'd bring in some pro fighter to beat up a bully. That's what it's gonna look like. Bully beatdown, but of Cody Brundage's weak ass. He almost lost to fucking Miller. No, Julian Marquez. If the ref didn't step in, he might have been in trouble. I spent too much time on that because because I think he's so bad. But now I'm going to talk about Cody Garbrandt, Raoni Barcelos. It's 15 minutes. I'm probably going to spend a couple here. So I made Cody Garbrandt the thumbnail of this video because he will win this fight. Look, I understand people picking Raoni. Raoni, he beat Peyton Talbot, took him down, did some good work. And Cody Garbrandt lost his last fight because he got taken down by Davison Figueiredo. Cody Garbrandt's been getting worse, right? But I think people are almost too focused on Cody Garbrandt's losses and bad performances than they are focused on, like, who is he fighting, right? Even if you look at these 3 losses in his last 5, I think they're to Jose Font. No, not Jose Font. Fuck. Rob Font. Years ago. And he's still, like, top 10 bantamweight. Who's his other loss to? Kai Kara France, who's literally fighting for the title next week. And Figgy. And Figgy, after that fight, beat Chito Vera. None of those are bad losses, right? And Barcelos, he's got decent losses, but he's got losses to, like, fucking Victor Henry years ago. Cody Garbrandt, he's not, like, the GOAT of anymore. I don't think he'd ever challenge again, but he's still good. He's still fast. And Barcelos' fight against Peyton Talbot, essentially, Peyton Talbot has the worst takedown defense you'll see. Decent grappler. Like, atrocious takedown defense. Look at the Nick Aguirre fight with Peyton Talbot. Nick Aguirre did the exact same thing Raoni Barcelos did. But when Raoni Barcelos was on the feet with Peyton Talbot, it looked like if Raoni was not looking good. I think you'll see in this fight, Raoni's going to look slow, plotty, try to get the takedowns, and Cody's just going to sprint around there, piece him up, pow, 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 knock him out. Emote on him. Some people have been saying, and I just don't understand this betting line. I understand that I think people are focused too much on just like the red dot, the red circles, and not really who he's doing it to. I'll be shocked if Raoni wins. If the odds were reversed, I would say, wow, that's pretty fair. But they're not. I'm getting Garbrandt as an underdog, and it's almost like frustrating because I'm like, what do people see that I don't see? Because the line keeps getting wider. And when the line initially was there, like, and he was the dog, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting this. One funny thing is he got vertigo after the second takedown against Figgy, and Peyton Talbot also got vertigo. So Garbrandt, even though he looked like shit on the ground against Figgy, it's because he had vertigo. Literally got hospitalized multiple times after the fight, supposedly from his vertigo. I just think Barcelos is going to look so slow. I think Cody Garbrandt is going to try to beat him up from the outside first, play it safe, but then Barcelos is going to look really slow and bad, do something stupid, and Cody Garbrandt's going to catch him and knock him out. The UFC have made this fight because they want Cody Garbrandt to be a name. He's an American former champion that everyone loves. They think he's going to knock him out, and so do I. Cody Garbrandt by KO. I think I wouldn't call Cody Garbrandt a lock, but I would say I'm very high confidence in Cody Garbrandt. If, fucking hell, put it below if you disagree with me and tell me why. Yeah, he got taken down by Figgy. It's fucking Figgy. Barcelos got smoked, got tuned up by fucking Victor Henry, right? Tuned up by Victor Henry. Know what else? Tuned up by Kyler Phillips. Not bad, but look at the Rob Font fight. I don't really rate that. Timur Valiev. Not a bad fighter in Timur Valiev, but, he's got a lot of these losses against guys who are, not that good or not that crazy good. Like, Oh, so what? He beats Christian Quinones. When did we ever think highly of Christian Quinones? Right? He's the Payne Talbot fight says more about Payne Talbot's takedown defense than it says about Howney being good. Don't get too caught up on trying to sell Cody Garbrandt stock that you end up buying another meme coin stock. You know what I'm saying? This is like saying, man, I've bought too much Doge stock. Let me unload and buy some Jack Doherty coin. That's so fucking stupid, right? Garbrandt's going to win. I'm very confident. Tell me below if you disagree with me. Tell me why. We can discuss. I spent 5 minutes on that fight. Let's get going. Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Petroski. Look. At first when I saw this fight, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting Andre Petroski as an underdog. But then I looked at the fights more and I had a realization of sorts. And my realization of sorts was, wait, Andre Petroski has no striking for him. Hold on. Andre Petroski has, what would I call it? He has inoffensive grappling. And his takedowns aren't that good. Like, he's a really good anti-grappler and can keep you on the feet. And his striking for a wrestler is not bad. Right? But it's not particularly good. Shabazian, if you look at the Gerald Meerschaert fight, he actually keeps it on the feet well, and then he kind of gets excited, gasses himself out looking for the finish. Just doing some weird shit. I think that Shabazian is going to be able to defend the takedowns, and when Petrosi's going to be stuck on the feet with Shabazian, it could be a quick night. I like Shabazian here. I don't think I really need to go more into depth about this fight and this pick. I understand why you pick Petroski. I see visually why you think it's a good fight. And if Petroski had like a multitude of submissions in the UFC, like, if he was showing Rodolfo Vieira levels on the mat, I'd be like, wow, I see what you're saying. But Petroski is not that guy. Petroski is like an American wrestler that DC tries to defend, but then you see him and you're like utterly unimpressed. Thug Rose, Brandon Maverick. Miranda Maverick. Oh, I fucked up her record. My bad. I'm not changing it. Miranda Maverick, she's a good fighter, American wrestler, but that's kind of all she is. Kind of like I was saying about Andre Petroski, she's very similar. And if you look at her fight with Jamie Lynn Horth, there's a lot of moments where you're like, oh, Miranda, what are you doing? And even if you look at her fight with Deone Barbosa, Deone Barbosa is the better fighter between the two, but Miranda Maverick is much smarter, where she knows who the fuck she is. She's not gonna, she's not trying to throw in spinning wheel kicks. She knows she's not a spinning wheel kick girl. She's a wrestler. She's not going for subs. She knows she can't submit shit. And that's her strength. But Thug Rose, good grappler, good striker. People want to talk about her last five, and they're like, oh, Thug Rose is falling off. Is falling off when you have a close fight to Furo, who I thought beat Shevchenko? That's not really falling off, is it? I don't think so. Oh, she beats Sebas. No note. Oh, she beats Tracy Cortez. Good. Those are girls who I think probably better than Maverick. Oh, then she fights Blanchfield and she beats her for 2 rounds and then makes a mistake and gets taken down, and then Blanchfield gets her confidence back. Thug Rose, she's not falling off. She's going up a weight class. That happens when you go up a weight class and you fight girls who are bigger than you. But I think Miranda Maverick is just not skilled enough to make the difference there. I think Thug Rose will beat her up on the feet. I think this is a fight for Thug Rose to get back. The reason it's the co-main on a good fight night is because they want to build Thug Rose again. Thug Rose is one of the WMMA GOATs, and, they're not letting her career die. I'm pretty high on Thug Rose in this fight. Miranda Maverick, I just think that Jamie Lynn Horth nearly beat her. If Jamie Lynn Horth can beat you, Thug Rose can beat you. Enough said. Now, Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. I don't make scripts for these videos. You can probably tell from how much I ramble and side tangent. But at first, when I was thinking about what I was going to say, I had so much to say about Joaquin Buckley. Because I've picked Joaquin Buckley in every single one of his welterweight fights, but I'm so ready to pick against him. I think that against Kevin Holland again, or if he fights JDM, if he fought MVP, if he fought one of these kind of strikers who are good, I'd be picking against him. Even if he fought a guy who had, I think the submission jiu-jitsu skills, like a Sean Brady, I'd be ready there right there to pick against Joaquin. But, big but, he's not fighting these guys. Joaquin Buckley is min-maxed, getting out the gamer term here. So that's how you know this shit is real. He's min-maxed to beat wrestlers, right? Joaquin Buckley, he's stronger and more physically imposing than the wrestlers at welterweights, right? And he has enough wrestling skills to know how to get up. So the wrestlers, typically they want to use their size, and they want to try and get you down. They don't really have the jiu-jitsu to do much, and they say want to do ground and pound and maybe try to control you a little bit. But Joaquin Buckley, he's like skilled enough and strong enough to get up, right? And so that really fucks him up. But the wrestlers, then they want to strike with Joaquin, right? Because the wrestlers, they still pack a punch, they have good cardio, but Joaquin Buckley hits them harder, is a more skilled striker, and has better cardio. Like Joaquin Buckley, like physically is an outlier, right? Where he has the good cardio, the heavy hitting, the speed, everything. Joaquin Buckley is not the most skilled striker. So if he fought an Ian Gary, if he fought, a Jeff Neal, I think Joaquin Buckley would probably lose because I don't think he's that good of a striker. But when he's fighting these wrestlers who can't get their wrestling going, and he's just better than them in the striking, good enough to defend the takedowns, he hits them harder than they can hit him, and he's still there with them in the cardio department. Like, they don't really have a solution. I think you see that in the Colby Covington fight, where Colby Covington just, you know what I mean? You can't do cardio Covington on Buckley because he's just too powerful with similar cardio to you, right? Now, I just went on a huge tangent. Probably some of y'all tuned out, talking about why Buckley is made to beat Usman's and why I don't even think he would beat a lot of other the best welterweights. But Usman, he still has got a fair chance, right? He's not really had a bad performance yet, and he's coming off a long layoff. But if he's healed up at all, his boxing's good. If he can get the takedowns, right? Because he's still fucking Kamaru Usman. If he gets the takedowns and can get some control, Joaquin Buckley, he's not fucking Charles Oliveira. And although he probably can get up, I wouldn't, like, if he got stuck on bottom against Usman, would that really be shocking? I think it would be, but you could convince me it wouldn't be, right? I've been picking Joaquin Buckley, and so I was kind of hoping for like another, minus 150 line, because it's against the former divisional arguable GOAT, and I was going to be able to like ride Buckley to the bank, but y'all are caught on, right? Y'all know this shit, right? So that is it for my picks for UFC Atlanta, Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman. If you found them interesting, if you liked what I said, please subscribe. But before you go, I just quickly have PFL picks. I just put that at the end of the video. Share my thoughts on the PFL. This will come out before the PFL happens. So if you want to make some money, if you're an early viewer, or maybe you just kind of want to see how I'm doing, here these are. So, Jason Danner over Gilmore. This is a setup fight for him. Alexi Pergrande, easy. I'm not talking about Mukmed Berkman versus Kenley. Like, if you get KO'd and then you get a quick fight turnaround like the PFL loves to do, I'm not doing a breakdown on PFL. Umalatov smokes Ivy, probably by decision though. Jeremy Kennedy, I think he'll beat Borix. I think people kind of sleep on Kennedy. Movid Kabulayev versus Taekyung Kim. I'm picking Movid. I think that Taekyung Kim, I just don't back the Asian wrestling as much as I back the Russian. Logan Storley will win. Jesus Pinedo, we've seen this before. And then I'm taking Thadjin versus Jason Jackson. I don't think that highly of Jason Jackson. I think Thadjin is like a legitimate prospect. And Jason Jackson, I don't think he's got the skills to beat Thadjin. So, less than 30 minutes. Thank you for listening. Let me know how you did. And if you find this video after the UFC card, tell me tell me how I got it all wrong. So, thank you for listening. See you guys next week for UFC Azerbaijan, where I'm probably end up going to pick Jamal Hill.